After 19 years of happy marriage, the wife shocked her husband with an unexpected question. Welcome to the audio podcast, Martin Stories. David, how long has it been since you went on a date? Mary had asked her husband after 19 years of what he thought was a happy marriage. It made no sense to him. Last Friday, he replied, confused. I took you to that Italian place you've been wanting to try, remember? We saw a movie after and your mom kept the girls overnight. No, I don't mean with me, she clarified. How long has it been since you dated anyone else? David felt his stomach drop. Jesus, Mary, are you accusing me of something? No, honey, it's not that at all, she assured him quickly. I was just wondering if you remember the name of the last girl you dated besides me. David's mind raced, trying to figure out where this was coming from. Yeah, I remember, he said slowly. Her name was Donna, and it was about 2 weeks after I met you. I think you might remember her too. We had a big fight about that date. Did you ever miss her? Mary pressed. David let out a humorless laugh. No. I remember how awful it was. Not that date specifically, it was fine, but the whole dating thing in general. Working up the courage to ask a girl out, worrying about being rejected, the awkward first conversations. It was traumatizing as hell. But wasn't it exciting and mysterious? More like absolutely terrifying, David replied. He studied his wife's face, not liking where this was going. What made you think of that, Mary? I was just wondering if you've ever felt the urge to go on a date with someone else. David frowned. No, I've never felt that way. I guess everyone has fantasies, but no. I remember you getting really mad when I went on that date with Donna and said you wanted us to be exclusive. I decided that's exactly what I wanted too. If I felt differently, I wouldn't have asked you to marry me. I just date women. That's what it means to be married. You don't go out with people other than your spouse. Mary let it drop after that, but the seed of doubt had been planted in David's mind. Why would his wife of 19 years suddenly be asking about dating? It didn't sit right with him. 3 weeks later, they went out to dinner and danced with some friends from Mary's work. As they were leaving the club, Mary said, David, I saw the way Elise was looking at you tonight. She wanted you to ask her to dance. Elise was an attractive coworker of Mary's, about 5 years younger than them. David shifted uncomfortably. Well, that's very flattering, but I only want to dance with you, he told his wife. I wouldn't be jealous if you asked her out, Mary said casually. David stared at her. That's nice, but then you have no reason to be jealous because I'm not going to ask her out. Would you be jealous if I danced with another man? Mary asked. I think your brother would be fine with it, David joked, trying to lighten the mood. But Mary didn't laugh. I never cared if you danced with guys who asked politely and kept their hands where they belonged, she said. Was there anyone there you wanted to dance with? I don't remember anyone asking me to dance, David replied, growing increasingly uneasy with this line of questioning. I was just curious, Mary said. That night, David tossed and turned, unable to sleep. Around 2 a.m., he got up and went to the spare room to play video games and clear his head. He saw Mary come to the doorway and watch him for a minute, but he pretended not to notice. Eventually, she went back to bed. David waited until he was sure she was asleep before joining her. Things were quiet for another 2 months, until they went to a promotion party for their friend Angela at a local club called the White Rhino. They were sitting in a big round booth with a group of coworkers when Mary suddenly announced, David, Elise wants to dance. Could you be a gentleman and dance with her? David froze, remembering the conversation from 2 months ago. Now he was in a very awkward position. Elise was a good friend and he didn't want to hurt her feelings, but he definitely didn't want to dance with her either. That lush body pressed against his didn't bode well. But he didn't know how to gracefully get out of the situation. Reluctantly, he stood up. I think they're playing our song, he said with forced cheerfulness. As they moved onto the dance floor, Elise smiled at him. Thanks for dancing with me, David. Mary said you wouldn't mind, that you like to dance. I haven't danced since I broke up with Bruce. Well, you're a very good dancer, David said. Actually, I don't mind dancing with you, Elise. I like you a lot. Hell, I love you. You're the sweetest girl I know. But you're really hot, and that's not a good idea for me. Elise giggled. You're safe with me, David. I love you too. If you weren't married, I'd be thrilled, but Mary is my best friend. Let's just enjoy this dance, okay? When they got back to the booth, Mary wasn't there. David looked around and spotted her black and white dress out on the dance floor. She was laughing and dancing with some young Nordic-looking guy, his hands much lower on her body than David was comfortable with. Mary noticed David staring and waved at him with a smile. David saw red. She'd sent him off to dance with Elise so she could dance with this asshole. Furious, he threw some cash on the table and stalked toward the exit. Elise watched him go for a moment, then ran after him. She caught up as he was halfway to his car. David, stop. Where are you going? She panted. We've been played, he told her bitterly. Mary's been talking about dating other people, asking if I'd ever thought about it. That's what this was. She was testing the waters. She set it up by getting me to dance with you. It gave her an excuse to dance with Romeo in there. So what are you doing? Elise asked. You're just going to leave her here? That's exactly what I'm going to do, David said. Well, you can't leave me here, Elise said, grabbing his arm. I'm coming with you guys. David felt a stab of guilt. I'm sorry, Elise. I don't know what I was thinking. It's okay, David. I don't like being played with any more than you do, she said. Take me to your house so I can get my car. They were almost home when David's phone started buzzing. He ignored it. Elise's phone rang and she answered. We're almost at your house, she said into the phone, then looked at David and mouthed, Mary. No, this wasn't my idea, Elise said. I was riding with you guys, remember? My car was at your place and I wasn't about to be stranded. She paused, listening. No, look, Mary, I'm not a part of this. Don't put me in that position. We've been friends for a long time, girl, but if you mess with me, you'll regret it. She ended the call. She wants you to come back and get her, Elise told David. Well, I want a wife who doesn't play stupid games, David sighed. Where did this shit come from, Elise? Marcy from work, I think. She's always talking about how she and her husband Herb have an open marriage, and how great it is, and how it's made their lives so much better and their marriage so much stronger. It's a load of crap. She and Herb barely talk and spend all their time entertaining their friends. He's been hitting on me for as long as I've known them, the creep. She's been filling our ears with this crap for 2 years now. I didn't think Mary was stupid enough to buy into it, but I guess I was wrong. She hesitated. I think she's trying to set us up, David. She knows that I've always liked you. David almost choked. Thank you, Elise. This is really awkward. I mean, I think you're gorgeous, but I'm a one-woman kind of guy. I'm not good at sharing. I'm sorry she dragged you into this. Why should you be sorry? Elise asked. You had nothing to do with it. I got to dance with the man of my dreams, and I don't regret that one bit. She smiled at him. David, will you let me know what happens? I will, he assured her. When they got to the house, Elise got in her car and drove off. David went inside, his mind racing. He gathered his toiletries from the master bathroom and moved them to the guest bathroom. He got his clothes for work the next day and put them in the guest room too. He locked the door and went to bed. Despite his churning thoughts, David fell asleep quickly. He was jolted awake sometime later by the sound of the front door slamming. Footsteps stomped up the stairs and down the hall. The doorknob to the guest room rattled. David, what the hell is going on? Mary whispered loudly through the door, probably trying not to wake their daughters sleeping down the hall. She knocked and whispered for another 10 minutes before David heard her footsteps retreat to their bedroom. The next morning, David got up early, hoping to slip out before Mary woke up. But as he was gathering his briefcase by the front door, she came down the stairs. What's the matter with you, David? She hissed, clearly angry. I think you should ask yourself that question, David replied coldly. What does that mean? Mary said, her voice rising. You ditched me at the club last night, locked yourself in the spare bedroom, and are trying to sneak out of the house an hour before you have to go to work. Now you think there's something wrong with me? Yeah, that's exactly what I think, David said. He picked up his briefcase. Everything I've done is a reaction to what you've done. I don't even want to look at you right now. You have no idea how close you are to permanently pissing me off. Get your shit together, check your priorities, and be ready to talk about this when I get home. I'll pick up the girls and take them to my mom's. We'll work this out. Mary's face went pale. I have no idea what you're talking about. What if I have something planned for tonight? That's up to you, David told her. If you're interested in fixing what's broken in this house, you'll be ready and cut the crap. If you're not, do whatever the hell you want. He paused. Oh yeah, one more thing. Move your shit to the spare bedroom. I like my bed. You're not welcome in it. He left her standing there, mouth agape, and went to work. That evening, he picked the girls up from school and dropped them at his mother's house, telling her vaguely that he and Mary were having some issues and needed time alone to talk. When he got home, Mary was already there. She had baked cookies, and there was a plate of them along with a cup of coffee waiting for him. She got up and hugged him for a long moment before kissing his cheek and sitting him down next to her on the couch. David took a cookie. They were delicious, oatmeal with chocolate chips and M&Ms. Good, he said. Mary smiled, seeming to think they were off to a good start. David didn't want to ruin the friendly atmosphere, but they needed to address this. Mary, that was some nasty shit you pulled last night, he told her. It's bad enough that you did that to me, but you dragged Elise into it. It was humiliating for both of us. It was disrespectful to me and to that nice girl who's supposed to be your friend. Mary met his gaze with difficulty. I'm sorry, David, she said. I shouldn't have done that, okay? I was just trying to talk to you about this and you kept brushing me off. I thought maybe this would be a way for you to see some possibilities. Possibilities for what? David asked. What exactly are you doing? What are you thinking about, Mary? Just ask me, tell me, whatever. You're playing games and it's pissing me off. She hesitated for a minute, then blurted it out. I just thought we could try dating other people. David stared at her. Well, there's a bit of a problem with that, he said. Actually, there are several problems. The first is that we're both married. Other married people do it too, she said. It's not like it used to be. A lot of people have open marriages, and they love each other more than ever. It only makes them love each other more. How do you know that? David asked. Everyone knows about it, she replied. The girls at work talk about it all the time. Are these girls married? David asked. Yes, that's how I know about it. Give me a name, David said. Marcy, she said. Marcy and Herb have an open marriage, and their marriage is stronger than ever. How do you know? She told me, Mary replied. Well, that certainly means it's true, David said sarcastically. How do you know she's not lying? I have an idea, he told her. Let's see what Google has to say about all these loving open marriages. Mary looked a little shocked, but came over and sat next to him as he fired up his laptop. He opened his browser and typed, how many people are in open marriages? According to the first survey they found, less than 1% of Americans were in open marriages. They checked a few more links and found similar results, all less than 1%. Mary seemed surprised by this. That's still a lot of people, she said. That's 3 million, at least. That's wrong, David said. I doubt very many kids are in marriages, open or otherwise. Okay, let's try it this way, he suggested. He typed in, what percentage of Americans expect their partners to be faithful? They clicked on a link and found that it was over 95%. And what do you think that means? David asked Mary. I guess most people aren't very open, she said. I thought there would be more people with alternative lifestyles. I hear about it all the time. I wonder how many of these open marriages end in divorce, David mused. Want to find out? He didn't think she did, but he wanted to know. He typed, what percentage of open marriages end in divorce? Turns out 92% of open marriages end in divorce within 5 years or less, he read aloud. Okay, David said. Let's see. Less than 1% of Americans are in open marriages. That means out of 1 million people, less than 10,000 are in open marriages. 92% of open marriages end in divorce. That means out of 10,000 people, only 800 of them don't divorce within 5 years. That's 800 people out of a million, Mary. Do the math. If 92% of 1% fail, how many successful open marriages are there? What are the odds that ours would be one of the ones that succeeds? Mary's voice was quiet. Not very good, she admitted. The few that do succeed are the ones where both parties are on board from the start, David continued. Look at the screen. 100% of the ones where one side is coerced fail. Our case would be one of those because I'm certainly not doing it voluntarily. Can you imagine the effects of resentment, rivalry, jealousy, insecurity, and betrayal if I let this happen? The only possible reason I could do something so absurdly painful is if I was desperate to keep you. I'm not that desperate. I'm attracted to other women. One of them told me so last night. If I were some pathetic loser who can't find a date or a sick freak who enjoys watching his wife have fun with other men, maybe I'd be interested in playing your game. I'm not that kind of man, Mary. I'd rather you shoot me in the head than break my heart. I don't think you can believe everything you see on the internet, Mary said weakly. No, you're probably right, David said. I think most of it is total bullshit. Especially the part that says, things are different now, a lot of people have open marriages. That's the part you shouldn't believe. You think you can believe everything that whore Marcy tells you? How many times has she been divorced? What about her husband? How many times has he been divorced? I don't know about him, Mary said. What about her? David pressed. 4 times, Mary answered quietly. So you're listening to marriage advice from a 4-time loser? David asked incredulously. I'm disgusted by all this shit. I asked Elise where all this came from. She said Marcy talks about it all the time. I also found out that Marcy and Herb hardly talk to each other and spend all their time partying with their friends. How do you think this is going to end, Mary? What exactly do you think you're doing? Well, don't you think our life lately has gotten a bit stale? She asked. No, it doesn't seem that way to me, David told her. I've been perfectly happy. It only got weird because you want to play silly games. Wait a minute. Was that Marcy's idea too? From the look on Mary's face, David realized it was. Jesus Christ, he exploded. It was her idea. This is just unbelievable. We have a very strong marriage, Mary insisted. This could be so good for us and so exciting. We could come home and tell each other about our experiences and it would be so cool. Don't you have fantasies of me being with another man and then coming home and? A lot of men have that fantasy. It's one of the top 10 male fantasies, David interrupted. Fantasies? He exploded. More like a nightmare. How do you know a lot of men have that fantasy? Do you want to Google it? I don't know who's into that shit, but just thinking about it gives me the creeps. If you do this, any of it, we're done, Mary. She looked shocked. What do you mean by, we're done? Do you mean you're going to divorce me? Is that all our marriage means to you? I thought you loved me more than that. I thought our marriage was strong enough that you'd be open to anything. Yeah, I thought it was strong too, David said bitterly. Apparently it's not as strong as I thought it was. The fact that you're even talking crap like this tells me that our marriage doesn't mean a damn thing to you. What are you going to tell the girls? That mom and dad are splitting up? Are you going to tell them why? We're not splitting up, Mary said. If we were splitting up, it would only be because their daddy doesn't love me enough to accept the fact that I love him enough to let him have another relationship. Guess again, David said. They would be told that their mother doesn't love their father enough to keep her marriage vows. She doesn't love them enough to make sure they have a good, loving home. Their mother wants to be a whore, and she doesn't care about the rest of us. They were both furious, and Mary quickly nailed the coffin lid shut. I want this, she said. It's going to happen, David. You have to get used to it. You can either go on this journey with me, or you can sit at home and sulk like a child. That's where you're wrong, David told her. We're not going to survive this, Mary. The first time you entertain some asshole, we'll be past it. I won't be sitting at home. I'll be talking to a lawyer. I'm going to give you a couple options. 1, we can just forget the whole thing, and I'll talk to a lawyer in the morning. We'll get divorced as soon as possible. 2. You can make an appointment with a therapist in the morning to find out why you're freaking out. Right after that, you can make an appointment for us to see a marriage counselor. We'll try to fix this mess. I'll go to counseling too and work with you, but I don't have any hope at all. This is a big failure, Mary. I've been anticipating it ever since you had those weird ideas. I think that slut Marcy was shoving some information at you, and you obviously swallowed it. You think all these good things are going to happen. All that will happen is that you will make everyone you say you love miserable. The girls, me, and you, we're all going to suffer because you've somehow built this idea in your mind. Now you're threatening me, Mary sneered. You won't be able to stop me. You don't own me, and I can do whatever I want. You're not going to divorce me. You have too much to lose. I'll get the girls in the house, and you'll pay alimony and child support. Think about it, David. Don't do anything stupid. I love you. I'll never leave you. This could be so exciting for us. We'll experience all the thrills of the first time without all the risks and downsides. I'll come home or you'll come home, and we'll be there for each other. If you're not happy, we'll stop, and that's the end of it. She stood up, walked over to David's chair, and tried to wrap her arms around him and kiss him. He pushed her hands away and stood up. Don't touch me, he told her. I need to think about this. I'll let you know what I decide. He was lying. He didn't need to think about it at all. He just needed to gather his thoughts. She was probably right about everything she said about divorce. The whole system was screwed up 9 ways from Sunday. He needed to take a few steps. David left Mary there, went up to the bedroom, and locked the door. After sitting at the computer for 30 minutes and 10 on the phone, he came up with a plan. The problem was the girls. He checked. Georgia law said kids over the age of 14 could choose who they lived with. He was betting on himself. Amelia was definitely Daddy's girl and always had been. Olivia loved him too, he knew that, but she also thought a lot of her mother. David knew there was no way Amelia would go with Mary, and he didn't think Olivia would want to be separated from her sister. He was betting that if he could get them to hear what their mother was planning, how she planned to use them as leverage to force him into this open marriage, they wouldn't want anything to do with her. Yes, it was cynical, and he hated every thought he was having, but he wasn't the one changing the rules. Here's what it came down to. If Mary had come to him before the wedding and told him she wanted to be faithful to each other for 19 years and then start having fun with other people, would he have married her? Not a chance in hell. He'd have run out of there like his tail was on fire. She knew that, and would have done the same thing. Now she wanted to change the rules and force him to go along with them. She threatened him with what she would do if he didn't agree. If she had come to him and told him she wanted to have fun and wanted a divorce, he would have been in a lot of pain, but he would have done the honorable thing. They would have split things up, agreed on custody, and that would have been the end of it. But not after this extortion. The conversation happened 2 nights later. Mary started by apologizing. David wasn't buying it. So you've decided to see a therapist and start marriage counseling? He asked. There's nothing wrong with me, she snapped back. The problem is you. You plan to have fun with other men and I'm the problem? I'm not planning anything, she said. I don't have some big plan to go out and do that. I mean, going out with someone else. I don't even expect to do that. I just think we should have the option if it comes up. I have another idea, David told her. Just so you know, I've had the option of cheating on you plenty of times over the years. You know what kept me from doing it? What? She asked. I had a plan, he told her. I had a plan not to cheat. I went into each of those situations with a plan that I wasn't going to do it. That's what marriage is all about. Planning for a good marriage, planning not to have fun with other people. If you don't plan for success, you plan for failure. Isn't that what they say? It is what you plan to do. You plan to betray all the promises you made to everyone. Me, your children, God, and everyone else. How do you think the girls will take it? You won't tell them a damn thing, she hissed. You know the mother always gets custody of the children. I'll take them away from you and you'll never see them again. I'll make sure something comes up every time you try to visit them. You'd better not say a word to them. She glared at him and stormed off. A few faint sighs and muffled sobs came from the stairs. Mary was making too much noise to hear them. When David reached the stairs, the girls were gone. He went up to Amelia's room, but it was empty. As he walked down the hallway to Olivia's room, he heard quiet voices inside. He knocked and Olivia asked what he needed. "Can I come in?" he asked. She opened the door. "Come on in, Daddy," she said. "We thought maybe it was Mom." They were both obviously crying. David sat down between them and hugged them both. "I'm so sorry you had to hear that," he told them. "I didn't think you'd believe me unless you heard it for yourself." "It's okay, Dad," Olivia said. "It's not your fault. It's her fault. I didn't believe you. Well, I didn't think you'd lie to us, but I thought maybe you misunderstood her. Now we know. How could she do this to you? How could she do that to us?" "I don't know, baby," David told her. "I don't understand a damn thing. She's not thinking straight. She's been listening to a lot of bullshit someone at work told her. She decided she was going to do it, that's all. I tried everything I could think of to talk her out of it. But she doesn't care." "Do you think she's sick?" asked Amelia. "I have no idea what she's sick with," David said. "I've been trying to talk her into seeing a therapist. You heard me. I've suggested she go to marriage counseling. She's just not interested. So what are we going to do?" Amelia asked. "Nothing right now," David said. "When she decides I've given up, she'll probably go on a date. When she does, we'll be ready. When she comes back, we'll be gone." He paused. "I'll try to talk her out of it one more time. I don't think she'll listen. Are you both with me, or do you want to stay with her?" The girls looked at each other for a minute. "No, Daddy, we're coming with you," Amelia said firmly. David's heart leapt. 19 years ending in disappointment, but here was a reason he was going to be okay. He wouldn't regret a single minute as long as he had